fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. In as little as 10 minutes, Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results. The best news, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95, plus get free shipping. Call 1-800-598-6439. That's 1-800-598-6439. Or visit plexiderm.com/trial. Paid for by Sheer Science.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is WBNW 1120 AM, the Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Ayanna Pressley are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive. Every walker who joins HeartWalk means more people trained in CPR. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing, to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, what happens to your home when a spouse enters a nursing home and no planning has been done? And is it different for single individuals?
Yeah, so very good question, and the answer is yes, it is different. So let's talk about the spouse first. When you're married, if you have a spouse living in the home, regardless of the value of the home, as long as it's located in Massachusetts, it's non-countable and it's non-lienable. So it's really, truly protected. Now, don't leave it that way. Make sure you put it 100% in the name of the healthy spouse after that happens. However, for a single individual, it's a little different. As long as the value doesn't exceed $1,071,000, there's a number that changes every year. It goes up. Then it would be countable if it's worth more than that. If it's worth less than that, and you check a box that you intend to return home, it's non-countable, but it's lienable. But so what? Getting on the Medicaid at the Medicaid rate is better than paying privately.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can simply request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here today. Nope, not Tucker. It's Ben. Hi, Ben. Hello. Love you.
You have a microphone back there, you know.
No, it's better if he's kind of mysterious.
That's
you know,
true.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like what was
Pat?
who's the guy in Home Improvement where you could only see his eyes? Like that's Ben.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
only see his eyes above the computer.
What was the neighbor's name?
Can't remember.
Yep. Okay.
Ben probably does.
Yeah.
But we can't hear him because, he doesn't want his mic on. So, in any case, hope everyone's having a lovely day. SpaceX, I honestly don't know how it's doing today. I haven't looked at it.
It's up a little bit.
It's up a little bit. And this is actually not entirely surprising to me because today is the day that the first tranche of SpaceX's lockup expires, and you have some investors that are able to sell an additional 900 million shares that are now free and on the market. So let's talk a little bit about what lockups are first.
Yeah.
If you invest in if you happen to be owning shares of a private company that goes public, you aren't allowed to sell those shares right away for very obvious reasons. There's like a long history of companies that went public and insiders could sell shares, and it was pump and dump, and this is unseemly, and the SEC and other regulators were like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Do something about
it.
this.
It kind of diminishes the trust in equity markets. So you end up with these lockup periods, and the reason, again, most of them typically, the way that a lot of them tend to work is, you get to 120 days or 90 days or 180, and here's, a bunch of liquidity that is available. And that's great, and that's fine, but SpaceX built their lockup period differently, where, we're going to kind of have this rolling expiration where every month for like a year, there's more shares that end up being put onto the market.
Which honestly, I think is kind of a nice model. Like of all the things
I don't
that
have
SpaceX
strong feelings
did,
either way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for stability. I don't know. I think it's actually a reasonable model to go with, and tying investors' gains or losses to a longer-term view on the stock. I like the overall composition of this. I don't think it should be required by any stretch, but I think it's a good model.
Sure. So Brent Donnelly, who I've been quoting quite a bit on SpaceX, just because he's written about it the last couple days, and I find his take interesting. He compared it to some other recent IPOs in the tech and specifically AI space, and said, okay, like, show me what these companies look like before and after their lockup expires. And so he looked at CoreWeave, which I think we're all familiar with. They IPO'd last year. Cerebras, which is, or Cerebras, however you pronounce it. I don't really know. I'm not particularly... I'm interested because I like to pronounce words the right way, but it's kind of ambiguous because it's a made-up word anyways, even though all words are made up. But Cerebras, another AI company, mostly on the chip side for them. And then he also looked at Rubrik, who is a cloud data management company. And here's what he found, is that when you look at those three companies, and again, he wanted to look at companies from like the last couple of years in a similar space.
Yep.
AI-focused tech companies that have IPO'd recently. And what he found was that for CoreWeave and Cerebras, heading into the lockup, you saw the share prices declining pretty meaningfully. You didn't really see any kind of meaningful decline for Rubrik. It was just kind of flat. And then for all three of them, they all saw, some rebounds in the, 10 to 50 day period after the lockup expired. And the thesis that Brent lays out that I think is reasonable here, because everyone says, like, oh, when these lockups expire, like, that's when the stock's going to get hit because there's going to be so many more people who want to sell. And in fact, what you end up seeing here is the opposite. And the question is, okay, like, why is this the case? And there's two things. The first is, everybody knows when the lockup period expires. It's not a mystery. It's a verified piece of data that you have on which to trade.
Yeah, before the IPO even happens, you generally know this information.
Correct. You know all of that information. And so the big thing that you look at when you think about this is, okay, if you know that there is going to be the potential for people coming onto the market to sell something in the future, what do you try to do? You want to sell first. And that's why you tend to see sell-offs on IPOs heading into the lockup expiry.
Which, guess what? We've seen. The thing got up to over $200 a share. It's now trading at below 110.
Correct. In particular, let's say that you are a hedge fund or a mutual fund that owns this. You're a big institutional investor that got allocated the IPO, or maybe you owned it, pre-IPO. You say, hey, I'm going to exercise, some liquidity on the shares that I have available to me, and I want to sell those because I'm able to get higher prices now. Likewise, then you have the post-lockup period, and those same institutional investors who might have been selling for the last, 30, 40 days, they then say, hey, you know what? We sold high. It's cheaper now. We want to own that. Let's go buy it back. And so this is why, when you have these lockup expirations, the period that's right around them, right after the lockup expiration, is not often the most bearish period for recent IPOs, because it's a well-known fact that the lockup is expiring, and investors take advantage of that by saying, okay, people are going to want to sell in the future. Great, I'll sell first, and then I can buy back cheaper. There are, if you get past the immediate, 4 to 8 week period surrounding the lockup expiration, this, no longer matters. And so, that short-term factor can end up, kind of muffling the message there. And then afterwards, you can see further sell-offs that happen. But Brent's point was basically, look, if everyone knows an expiration is happening for a lockup, then you don't typically see the major sell-off after the lockup expiration. You see it before, and then you get a little bit of cushion for like a 4 to 8 week period before regular market forces take over again.
Other dynamics here, just to think through with SpaceX. So when they went public, we talked about of the reasons they weren't being included in major indices, one of them was the public float, meaning how much of these shares are actually going to be tradable on public markets. It was less than 5% at IPO. According to sources, with this new tranche going available, that's going to bring that up to about 12%.
Yep.
Still, I don't know what the average is for the S&P 500. I'm guessing quite a bit more than 12%, but it does more than double the available shares on public markets with this newest tranche going open now.
So that's where things stand for SpaceX right now. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk a little bit about the dangers of thinking you're a pre-IPO investor in SpaceX when you were, but maybe not the way you thought you were.
Subscribe now to our YouTube page, where you'll find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange. We'll get you caught up on anything and everything you might have missed, right here on the Financial Exchange. A nursing home stay can cost more than $14,000 a month. Before you assume you have to spend everything to qualify for Medicaid, get the facts. Call 866-848-5699 for your free copy of Cushing & Dolan's new guide, Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. For veterans, every day is a commitment to service. This Veterans Day weekend, be part of something meaningful at the DAV 5K Boston. Join the thousands of runners and walkers at Fort Independence on Castle Island for a day of community, remembrance, and gratitude. Proceeds help fund the programs and services provided by the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. To register or make a donation, please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years, when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years, when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years, when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing, to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Jake Auchincloss are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
From breaking news to market analysis, follow the Financial Exchange Show on X and watch the show live every day. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange streams every day live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and follow market activity all morning long. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, would you say that SpaceX has been the most hyped IPO since Facebook?
Yeah. I hesitate to come up with another one, yeah.
It's tough to find one in that, in the middle of that 15-year period, because I think Facebook was either like 2011 or 2012, if I recall correctly. Maybe 2010.
Yeah.
But in any case, ton of interest, and so you had all kinds of investors that were, climbing over each other, trying to get access to shares before it IPO'd. People, were like, okay, like, what can I do in order to get this? And the Wall Street Journal has an investigative report that was published late yesterday evening. And it covers the story of a man by the name of Ram Rupareddy, who back in 2020 had a friend tell him, hey, I've got, this investment firm that I'm working with that has, the ability to invest in shares in SpaceX and other privately held companies.
Yep.
And so he took him up on that for not just SpaceX, but SoFi, the fintech company that went public a couple of years ago.
Impossible Foods, the fake meat company.
Yes, well, the real fake meat company. It was not a fake meat company.
Yeah,
it was a company that made fake meat.
Yes,
real company making fake meat.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So in any case, he basically went in and said, okay, I'm going to send about $17,000 to this special purpose vehicle that this company had set up. That this is a pretty common thing. The estimates are that there's like 1,000 SPVs that hold SpaceX shares in order to facilitate these kinds of transactions. And okay, he sent $17,000 to buy shares in the company.
Undoubtedly signed a bunch of paperwork, disclosing all sorts of information
Wall Street
about
Journal
himself.
saw a bunch of paperwork. They saw financial statements and bought into the company and received multiple documents from the SPV saying, hey, you've got 500 shares of SpaceX stock. So SpaceX then went through a 5-to-1 stock split as a privately held company, and so he thought he had 2,500 shares that based on the IPO price, he said, okay, it's going to be like $300,000. I can cover college for my kids. Like, this is going to be great. And then what ended up happening is it's unclear exactly where the problem came up because there's different timelines and different statements from different parties, but somewhere in the mix, it turns out that the SPV that he was using, that he had invested in, sold his shares well before the IPO. There's some discussion about the exact date and before the stock split, and so he didn't own as many shares as he thought, didn't own them heading into the IPO, and instead had about $45,000 in cash inside his account in the SPV, but clearly not $300,000.
So things we don't know about this. One would be SPV might be well within their rights to sell everyone's shares of whatever company. They could have very much discretion on how the SPV is operated. It could operate like a fund that buys and sells things at their own discretion.
Yep,
So
we have not seen any paperwork about how it operates, and so it could all be on the up and up from that perspective.
that is definitely true. The allegation from the client is that based on the holdings shown in his investment portal as of May 2026 and on his 2025 tax document, it contradicts what the firm is saying there.
Yes.
And the Wall Street Journal also say that they reviewed that. So, some allegations here of fraud that nobody's really certain of. But so we didn't really talk about these types of vehicles much in 2020 from what I can recall, but I remember talking about them a lot this year when everybody was clamoring for the privately held shares ahead of the IPO or trying to get into the IPO.
Sure.
And, part of the stuff we kind of paved over, right? He was introduced to this sales manager at Late Stage. They spoke on the phone, and then mostly...
Late Stage, the company that ran the SPV.
Correct. Sorry for paving over that. Spoke over the phone, mostly messaged back and forth on WhatsApp, never met with anyone in the firm in person. And I know it's a brave new world. I know we are much more comfortable these days operating, or at least a certain generation is much more comfortable operating over the internet and via text message than over the phone, via Zoom or in person. But a few of these things are red flags for any sort of investment, even those on the most cutting edge, such as communicating exclusively via WhatsApp message or primarily via WhatsApp message. I don't want to blame the individual who put the money in here. That is not where I'm going with this. But unfortunately, the financial world as a whole is full of potential scams that you need to constantly be on the lookout for. And speaking with a salesperson almost exclusively via WhatsApp is one of those red flags that needs to go up.
I'm not sure. And when I say I'm not sure, 20 years ago, people would have said, hey, speaking with someone purely over email would have been a red flag.
Yep.
And now that's the main way that people do business.
Yep.
So I'm not willing to say that, and I don't know. Again, it's really hard to tell what actually happened here.
Agreed.
So I think for me, especially when you're talking about private investments, there's very often a gap between the understanding of the individual investor on what they own, what the liquidity is, and what the process is, and the understanding from the institution selling them that private investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who is to blame here, but something went wrong in this process that caused a misunderstanding to the tune of $250,000. And we're going to end up finding out what that something is. It doesn't...
Maybe. Could be all privately settled, but probably not. Once the SEC is involved, that's usually not what happens.
We don't know, again, the SEC is saying, we can't confirm or deny, so,
Sure.
we don't know what exactly is going on here. But this is another thing that you have to be aware of when you're talking about private investments is, hey, understand that unlike something that trades on an exchange where you have the ability to see it every day and trade it and know exactly what you own, there are different rules of the road that can be changed just like that when it comes to liquidity, either not allowing you liquidity, as we've seen with some private credit funds recently, or potentially forced liquidation if the manager says, no, we're going to be selling all or part of this asset. Those things can happen as well. We see that quite a bit in the privately held real estate world where, someone might say, okay, I invested in this company and, they decided to sell the property. And so now I have, a liquidity event that I wasn't planning for. So I think that it's hard to understand who is at fault here and exactly what happened, but it's clear there was a miscommunication on something, and there's some stink here, but I just don't know exactly what the problem was.
Agreed. There's not enough information to tell. Maybe the lesson is purely understand what it is you are investing in and what it is you own. But then again, this guy thought he understood what it was he was investing in and what he owned. Right? At the time, if you had asked him back in 2021, he would tell you, I own assets in a privately held vehicle that owns SpaceX shares, amongst other things. He might have been wrong about that, but he thought that he understood it.
Yeah. So, again, this is all just another way of saying, look, just... When you're investing your money into something, realize that you spent oftentimes years saving that money and doing a little bit of additional due diligence to make sure you know what you're getting into. Worth doing. Quick break here. We've got Wall Street Watch next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. A single nursing home stay could cost you more than $14,000 a month. That's why so many families believe they'll have to spend almost everything before a loved one can qualify for Medicaid. But that isn't always the case. Cushing & Dolan has created a new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. In it, you'll learn how Medicaid eligibility works, get information about last-minute planning options that may still be available, the mistakes that could cost your family, and why acting quickly could give you more options. Don't assume you have to lose everything to pay for long-term care. Get your free copy of our new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
I was 24 when I had a stroke. I was 35 when I suffered a heart attack.
I was 46.
I was 62.
It's a fact. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in women. But we can fight against our #1 killer.
Talk to your doctor about your risk factors.
Know your family history.
Learn the warning signs and symptoms. Together.
November 7th for a family-friendly day of community, remembrance, and support. Whether you run the 5K, join the 1-mile walk, or make a donation, your participation helps further the mission of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Honor those who served. Sign up today at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Navigating Retirement Housing Choices. Mike, as you get towards retirement, what are some of the considerations for whether you should stay in the property that you've been in for a while or consider moving to a new one?
To me, for most people, they come down to 2 factors. One would be financial, and 2 would be quality of life. And so, first things first, right? I mean, you're heading to retirement. Did you do enough saving to be able to afford to live in the same place you did, with or without that mortgage, with where property taxes and insurance costs have been going? So that's probably number one. But the one that people kind of start to forget about is the quality of life. And so how close am I to family? How close am I to health care? And am I going to be safe in this house 20 years from now from a healthcare perspective?
It seems like for most people, they're going to have different priorities as far as which of those come first. So it very much is not, here's what you do, but more, here are the things you need to consider and then get to your own conclusion.
Yeah, but I think it's important that people think long-term on this, right? You do not want to make this decision twice. And so very often we do see that happen. Hey, I'm moving here because of taxes, and I didn't think about the other qualitative lifestyle pieces about that move.
Folks, our guide is titled Navigating Retirement Housing Choices. There are 2 ways to request it. First, you can call 800-393-4001. Second, you can go to armstrongadvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com. armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are mixed at this hour. The Dow Jones is off 0.2%. The S&P 500, on the other hand, is up just barely, up 0.08%. The Nasdaq is up 0.4%. Oil prices are up a little over $1, or 1.42%. Brent crude up $1.50, or 1.9%. Gold is up 0.4%, while silver is down 0.8%. Meanwhile, Peloton shares sank nearly 12% after its fourth quarter results. Its earnings of 13 cents per share was in line with estimates, while its revenue topped expectations. Peloton also reported its active paying subscribers fell 8.8% year over year. The Food and Drug Administration approved Moderna's mRNA flu vaccine, Mflusiva, for adults 50 years or older. Despite the news, shares are down 1%. SanDisk has slid 4.5% as revenue guidance appeared to disappoint traders. SanDisk said it sees first quarter revenue in a range of $10.3 billion to $10.8 billion, while the consensus sought $10.47 billion. Fourth quarter results beat expectations on the top and bottom lines. DoorDash added 3% after its quarterly revenue of $4.45 billion beat the consensus of $4.34 billion. Its earnings of 46 cents a share came in line with expectations. And finally, Zillow slid more than 12% after it expanded Chief Financial Officer Jeremy Hoffman's role, giving him the additional title of Chief Operating Officer. The company also reported a solid quarter after the bell, with adjusted earnings per share of 52 cents, topping estimates of 45 cents, and $772 million in revenue, beating estimates of $758 million. A day earlier, the company announced it would let go of about 500 employees. I am Ben Kitchen, and that was Wall Street Watch.
So yesterday, Google, or rather the parent company of Google, Alphabet, at noon announced two changes to the staff of their AI unit, losing two pretty senior members of that staff. Now, oftentimes, you kind of look at, changes in personnel where, okay, like CEO leaves or CFO leaves or, this person leaves from a company and you're like, I wonder, exactly how that's going to affect, how the company is viewed and valued. And you usually can't make any heads or tails of it.
Sure.
In this case, we know exactly how the market feels about this, because the minute that Google announced this at noon yesterday, these two departures, what we saw was around a $175 billion drop in Google's market cap in the subsequent 2 minutes.
It's a lot.
Again, most of the time you look at moves in markets and you're like, well, it's a combination of these factors and that. No. This one that's what happened here. And basically, from my understanding in reading up on these guys from people who know them better than I do, these two guys are basically the architects of Gemini and Google's AI efforts to this point. And a lot of people in the space feel that their departure is going to be awfully hard for them to overcome.
So, in terms of the model race, and Google, again, has the, from investors' perspective, fortunate position of both designing models as well as building out data centers and kind of an integrated approach to AI, as well as designing semiconductors for all of this. So, more integrated than some of the others, and so it's not all tied out to the model. But it would seem to me that Gemini 3 months ago was in the conversation with ChatGPT and Claude, and has since fallen pretty far behind Anthropic and OpenAI. I recognize how quickly these companies can leapfrog each other,
sure.
But Gemini, for instance, has not been in the conversation of models that are capable of big cybersecurity things. They have not been heavily in the conversation of models that are really good at coding. And that's where the frontier seems to have been going over the course of the last couple of months. And so I recognize the departure of basically the architects of your leading AI model is not exactly a good indication, but I just do openly wonder, hey, is this shift necessary anyway based on how much ground they've lost recently?
I don't know. It's again, these things can change so quickly, Yeah. A year ago, everyone was all about, OpenAI and ChatGPT are, the clear leaders. And now...
Yeah, it's funny to think about, like, who had even... there was no one even talking about Anthropic.
No one was paying attention to Anthropic like last spring and summer. It was all OpenAI, and Anthropic was kind of viewed as like this distant competitor, not a real, competition for them. So I think in a world where these models are increasingly becoming commoditized, the question really is like, hey, how much can you spend on developing and then, producing the outputs from them, given the increased competition that you have? Because when things become commoditized, we've talked about this, what happens to profits, they tend to go away. Like that's how commoditization works. That's like the very definition of a commodity is, when it doesn't matter who the provider is, you just buy the cheapest one. And that's kind of where we're going, where so many of these are now clustered in like similar scores on different benchmarks. The other piece that I do think is interesting to talk about in this regard is when we talk about a lot of the benchmarking, a big chunk of it is on things like coding and math, because the reasons that you can have accurate benchmarks there are because there are clearly defined outputs that you can then test, like, does this work? Yes or no? Like, does it accomplish this task? It's much harder to do that with other items when it comes to, hey, like, how good is your essay? Like, how good is the movie that you produced? These things are more subjective, and taste matters and personal preference matters and things along those lines. And so it's not surprising that when we talk about, how a lot of the benchmarks work, a lot of the scoring and a lot of the like places that people are using these are on coding and math oriented things, simply because, okay, you get results very quickly that you can check, is this doing what it's supposed to do?
Right. Chuck, have you seen the ChatGPT commercial recently with, what looks like a woman over the age of 70 using ChatGPT verbally?
No.
Okay. So for anybody that is listening, maybe you've seen it, but it's a woman talking to ChatGPT, and it's an older woman who, is probably exploring it for one of the first times, and she's talking to it. I know we measure a lot of this stuff in terms of how well they are able to code, and I don't know precisely the business model that ChatGPT wants to go to, but it's been alluded to that they're going to effectively take the Facebook model of delivering a free product that sells a bunch of stuff to you. I wonder, you talk about the commoditization of these different products and how, how we will all just switch to the cheapest and most efficient. I'm wondering how much that's true, right? Like, I think coders will switch to the cheapest and most efficient.
But that's where the money is.
Maybe, or maybe the money is to be made on selling ads to grandma who's using ChatGPT.
There's not enough money there. Like that. Think of it this way: companies have an ad budget, right? Like you have an ad budget where you say, "Hey, our marketing budget for this year is $1 million." You know how much product like you can sell and how much you can produce.
Yep.
You're not going to double your marketing budget because ChatGPT exists. You're going to say, no, we're going to redeploy that from somewhere else. Maybe we can increase it like 5 or 10%.
Sure.
But there's only so much ad money to go around. It's why when Google, took over, Google and Facebook, the reason why local newspapers have died is because classified ads are no longer a thing. Like, ad budgets got redirected elsewhere. And so I think that in that context, when you're talking about trying to spend $4 trillion on data centers over the next 3 years, there's not enough ad money for that to make a difference. It's you have to be replacing employees.
Yep.
Because the only way that you get to the numbers that you can get to, that you want to get to on this, is we're going to take something that was previously done by a $60,000 employee, and get it for a $20,000 contract.
Yep.
And if we do that for 1 million employees, then okay, great. Now we've been able to realize $20 billion in new revenue. Okay, that helps to do it. Not, well, hey, Meta's got, ad spend of, what's Meta's revenue right now? Let me just pull it up just to get the number. Meta's revenue for the last year is $228 billion.
Almost all of which comes from advertising.
Almost all advertising. Well, okay, so if...
Doesn't get you there.
If, Delta or McDonald's says, hey, we're going to redirect our... Because remember, McDonald's isn't... The thing that's limiting McDonald's isn't, well, if we could just get better ads to more people, like more people would eat our sandwiches. It's, there's a fixed pool of people that want to have McDonald's, and on the margin, advertising might add, a little bit to that pool on any given day or week. But it's not like by advertising on OpenAI, McDonald's can double their sales. It is something where, okay, if IBM is able to replace 2 engineers for the cost of 1 using AI, that provides a meaningful change to what their revenue picture looks like. So I don't think the ad piece is enough. And the other thing, AI has a ton of users, right? Like, we know that there's like billions of people worldwide that are using different AI platforms.
Sure.
Do you or any, question for both of you, do any of your friends talk about using AI agents?
No, never once mentioned.
So I find that the average person is using AI pretty much as a glorified search engine or companion.
Correct.
There's no money in that to justify the build out for CapEx.
Right.
Because all AI would be then is a more expensive search engine. It might be better. Like I tend to, for some things, I prefer it because I get a better answer with the link cited and clearly explained, as opposed to having to figure out which link works.
Yep.
But I just don't think there's enough money in that, and so it's got to be the business cases that drive this, and that's where the proof is going to have to be in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, I can't do any more AI. I can't do any more AI. I'm AI'd out.
We can do that. I think at some point we should talk about the depreciation in data centers that we've been alluding to for a while, because there's being a piece written about it. But let's take a
break and talk about anything else.
Yeah, let's take a break and we'll talk about something else next.
Smart financial talk whenever you want. Find the Financial Exchange on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and keep up to date on daily business news from New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years, when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years, when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years, when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A single nursing home stay could cost you more than $14,000 a month. That's why so many families believe they'll have to spend almost everything before a loved one can qualify for Medicaid. But that isn't always the case. Cushing & Dolan has created a new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. In it, you'll learn how Medicaid eligibility works, get information about last-minute planning options that may still be available, the mistakes that could cost your family, and why acting quickly could give you more options. Don't assume you have to lose everything to pay for long-term care. Get your free copy of our new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
From market moves to retirement planning strategy, follow the Financial Exchange on Instagram and stay up to date on the business news of the day. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Let's talk about a couple, excuse me. Let's talk about a couple earnings that came out in the last couple days. Restaurant Brands International, commonly known as RBI.
Nope.
Nope, not. Okay. So Restaurant Brands International, the company that is the parent of Burger King, Popeyes, Tim Hortons. They're all under that umbrella now. They came out with earnings, and Burger King saw same-store sales growth of 8.5% for the quarter.
So
what's the King doing that's got him back on top or back somewhere?
Apparently just kind of getting back to basics and fundamentals, cleaning up their restaurants a little bit, making them look a little bit nicer, which was noticeable for anybody that had been inside a Burger King in the last 2 years. But for a point of comparison here, so Burger King's same-store sales. Same-store sales are stores that have been open for at least 12 months, so you get a real view of, hey, taking out the new stores that we opened, what was the sales growth? 8.5%. McDonald's publishes the same metric, 0.8%.
So there's something going on that Burger King's executing well
Something's
on.
working. Now, it may have just been that they were at a particularly low starting point, and
either way,
my perception of this is very micro, but I'm going to talk about my perception of Burger King because occasionally when I play beer league men's hockey, which happens during the wintertime once a week.
Yes.
To relieve my wife a little bit, I'll take all three of my kids with me, and they'll sit in the stands and watch. They'll be the only fans at beer league hockey and watch me play hockey. And
do they cheer for you or against you?
For right now, but I see that changing in the not so distant future.
Yeah.
And to incentivize them, I will take them to either McDonald's or Burger King and go through the drive-thru lane. And where I stop, there's a McDonald's on one corner and the Burger King right across. The McDonald's drive-thru line, consistently 10 vehicles. The Burger King one, empty. And so depending on how much of a rush I'm in, I will either choose the Burger King line or the McDonald's
Sure.
line because it is consistently shorter. It's been a little while since I've done this exercise, but that was my perception of Burger King. And frankly, the food is, from my perspective, the same. The little fidgets and gadgets that the kids will get in their Happy Meals are the same, but it was all that perceived niceness of not even just the inside. Like, I wasn't even going inside the store. It was even the perceived niceness of the drive-through line.
While we're on the topic of fast food,
Sure.
Luke Kawa, who we have on the show occasionally, found some data on Taco Bell.
Uh-huh.
So Taco Bell has kind of been at the center of concern about this cyclospora outbreak.
Yes.
And on July 28th, Taco Bell offered a one-day only $1 Mexican pizza promotion. Taco Bell foot traffic was up 4% year over year from the prior year on that day. In the 4 days after, Taco Bell foot traffic was down anywhere from 12 to 15% year over year.
Wow.
So the message that you can take from this is that, and this is how Luke phrased it, because I just think it's fantastic. Mexican pizza cravings outweigh explosive diarrhea fears.
So long as they cost basically nothing.
There's a 20% difference in foot traffic in Taco Bell from the day offering the $1 Mexican pizza promotion to the days immediately before and after it.
Yeah.
And it can only be explained as, hey, when offered free Mexican pizza, even at a
Next to
place
free.
where you have concerns about,
Explosive
diarrhea.
That has killed 2 people in Michigan, I think.
20% of potential customers say, let's give it a try.
Yeah. Which brings me back to that Boston Globe article that we covered a few weeks ago.
There's
of
nothing-
restaurants struggling
Mike,
with.
there's nothing more American than this.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing more American than this.
Yeah.
Hey, dollar food, but might give you a real bad, stomach issue? What's the worst that could happen? Well, we told you what the worst that could happen is.
Yeah, it's been all over the news.
Yes.
You used to pay full price for diarrhea. Now it's just $1.
Speaking of which, now you saw the jalapenos, right? Did we cover that yesterday?
No.
Yeah, the jalapenos are not cyclospora. They have salmonella, so Chipotle had to pull all their jalapenos across like 13 states.
Okay, this is good, actually, because I had bought jalapenos. I was going to make tacos on Tuesday.
Yeah, double check the label.
We decided to do turkey burgers instead, and I'm thankful this morning that we went in that direction because I hadn't seen that alert. The produce is fighting back, Michael.
Yep.
The produce is fighting back. Let's take a quick break. We got hour 2 coming up in just a little bit.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001 or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A single nursing home stay could cost you more than $14,000 a month. That's why so many families believe they'll have to spend almost everything before a loved one can qualify for Medicaid. But that isn't always the case. Cushing & Dolan has created a new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. In it, you'll learn how Medicaid eligibility works, get information about last-minute planning options that may still be available, the mistakes that could cost your family, and why acting quickly could give you more options. Don't assume you have to lose everything to pay for long-term care. Get your free copy of our new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Every mile can make a difference for a Massachusetts veteran. The DAV 5K Boston returns to Castle Island on Saturday, November 7th for a family-friendly day of community, remembrance, and support. Whether you run the 5K, join the 1-mile walk, or make a donation, your participation helps further the mission of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Honor those who served. Sign up today at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Jake Auchincloss are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about techniques that can help protect your assets from long-term care expenses last minute. Todd, what happens to your home when a spouse enters a nursing home and no planning has been done? And is it different for single individuals?
Yeah, so very good question, and the answer is yes, it is different. So let's talk about the spouse first. When you're married, if you have a spouse living in the home, regardless of the value of the home, as long as it's located in Massachusetts, it's non-countable. And it's non-lienable. So it's really, truly protected. Now, don't leave it that way. Make sure you put it 100% in the name of the healthy spouse after that happens. However, for a single individual, it's a little different. As long as the value doesn't exceed $1,071,000, there's a number that changes every year. It goes up. Then it would be countable if it's worth more than that. If it's worth less than that, and you check a box that you intend to return home, it's non-countable, but it's lienable. But so what? Getting on the Medicaid at the Medicaid rate is better than paying privately.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details last-minute Medicaid eligibility. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can simply request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It's Chuck, Mike, and Ben with you here today, and we're going to talk about things related to money and business. And starting with the stock market, which today is kind of just, as it's been for a little while now, just dispersion pulling it in different directions. It's like you've got, these strings that it's a tug of war between market participants, and everyone is equally as strong, is kind of what we're seeing. S&P 500 up 4 points. Dow down 190, NASDAQ up 69. So again, just kind of this mixed, relatively calm market, which is nice after what we saw at the start of last week, where it looked like things might be coming unraveled a little bit. It's good to see a little bit of stability there. 10-year Treasury, after a few years, bless you, whoever that was. Was that from the next room? Yeah. That was from the that was quite a sneeze. U.S. 10-year Treasury up 3 basis points after consolidating downward for the last couple days, now at 4.647%. Despite yields rising today, gold up $22.80 an ounce. Take note of this. When we see gold and yields diverging, or rather when they're correlating in the same direction, gold and bond prices are diverging, that's interesting to me because it potentially represents a shift in the way investors typically think about gold. Normally, gold catches a bid as real interest rates come down. If we have gold and reals moving up at the same time, historically, that has been some of the strongest action that we've seen for precious metals. And we'll see if that's the case here or if this is maybe just a 1 or 2 day head fake. Don't know. Keep your mind open to different possibilities. Otherwise, you're missing out. It's a big world with lots of stuff in it. That's what Ferris Bueller said, I think, right? Yeah, basically. Crude oil also moving up today, up $136 a barrel to $76.58. Despite that, prices falling over the last couple days is bringing down the price of gas modestly, now off about 1.7 cents on the AAA national average, down to 406 3/10 of a cent. I'm not going to quote hundredths of a cent because we cannot go to 4 decimal points for gas prices, Michael. It's just too confusing and too much. I can't do it. Let's talk Kevin Warsh here. There's a piece in the Financial Times that, interestingly to me, comes off as Warsh trying to kind of issue a mea culpa while at the same time not fully coming clean on his communication style. And what I mean by this is the third paragraph. I'll quote right here. People close to Warsh said he acknowledged he had made mistakes in his first 10 weeks at the helm of the world's most important central bank, including failing to reinforce his key messages on price stability and sowing confusion over whether his long-term plans to reform the Fed could affect near-term policy decisions. That paragraph, whenever you read anything, you have to ask yourself, why am I reading this now?
Sure.
That paragraph you are reading because Kevin Warsh wants you to read it now.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other reason why that is being published. This is also interesting in the context of, did you see Scott Bessent yesterday going after Nick Timiraos?
Yeah, a little bit.
So Scott Bessent went in on Timiraos. Timiraos is the Washington Post's, the Wall Street Journal's Fed reporter. And Bessent yesterday says, quote, this is on X, one of the highlights of the Warsh Fed has been watching stenographers posing as journalists like the Wall Street Journal's Nick Timiraos reduced to reporting Fed backroom gossip because they're incapable of performing real economic or monetary policy analysis without being spoon-fed. So it's, again...
So we questioned whether that relationship was going to stick around, and it's appearing like Timiraos might be losing some of his value to the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, might be on the outs with the current Fed chair is kind of the read that I get, but maybe the Financial Times and Claire Jones picking up the mantle instead. So I think that paragraph that I read indicates, hey, Warsh wants to do somewhat of a soft reset in terms of how he's, going to communicate. Got it. The next paragraph, though, but they insist those errors do not warrant reversing course on his shakeup of the Fed, which missed its 2% inflation goal for 5 years. A pillar of Warsh's strategy is drastically reducing policymakers' guidance to markets, a plan he has repeatedly emphasized following last Wednesday's Fed meeting.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be clear, I would criticize Warsh more for pivoting on this stance that he's had 10 weeks in than screwing up some of his presentation like he did last week. Right? Like, if he went and screwed up and then on Monday of this week turned around and said, you know what, we're killing these committees and we're going to communicate a lot more. Of course he's not pivoting on his communication style. That has been the entirety of his philosophy since taking over the Fed is they communicate too much and we're going to change that. He cannot switch it up just because of one admittedly pretty bad press conference.
Yes. I will make one point that I think is worth noting. When we talk about information, in the absence of direct information from any source, and this is true in anything. This is true whether you're following sports. This is true if you're following business. It's true if you're asking your kid what they did yesterday. If that direct source does not give you direct answers, what does it leave you to do?
Make them up yourself.
Not make them up.
Hypothesize, guess.
You speculate,
yeah.
And then you start asking around other people in their orbit saying, hey, what's going on? So ultimately, if you want less speculation about what is going to happen, the best way to quash that speculation is to say, this is what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that Warsh should or shouldn't do that, but you can't simultaneously complain about, well, reporters are, trying to get gossip when you're not telling them anything. You can't do both.
Yeah, I see what you are saying there. I don't think that Warsh actually will have a problem with the speculation. I think, perhaps Bessent wanted to throw some water on over on Timros and the relationship
Why does
that he
Besson
had.
care? Why does Besson care? He's running the Treasury, not the Fed.
Yeah, I don't know why he seemed to pick a fight with Timros there.
Once again, you think it's not coming from Warsh?
Yeah. Okay.
I just look at this, and so, look, you can have it one of two ways. You can either have less speculation because you're telling people directly, or if you don't tell people directly, they're going to speculate. And that's fine.
And by the way, Timros will do just fine with the Wall Street Journal reporting on juicy gossip.
Yeah.
People will read that all day.
Well, here's the thing about
Seen
Timros.
tabloids?
Well,
People love him.
No, he doesn't even need juicy gossip. Remember, Timros doesn't need to have Warsh telling him what the Fed's doing.
Right. He's got plenty of those sources.
He's got Jerome Powell, who's still on the Open Market Committee.
Right.
He doesn't have to, if Warsh doesn't want to deal with him, fine, he'll talk to Jay Powell. So it does set up for the most dramatic season of the Fed that we've ever had.
Yeah.
But that's the deal.
The real Fed husbands.
Right, yes. This is the deal. It's if you were making a reality show, if the Fed decided we're going to do our version of Hard Knocks, or we're going to do what would the Fed reality show be?
What would the title of it be?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not good at this off the cuff type creative creation.
I'm initially thinking something referencing the gold standard, but we're not on the gold standard. Maybe something about the dot plot, dot plotters, or I don't know. What about a riff on Keeping Up with the Kardashians with Keeping Up with the Chairman? Maybe that.
Yeah. I don't know who's going to air this garbage. It's going to have 6 viewers. They're all going to have a lot of money though. So
yeah, the advertising.
It feels like Paramount might pick it up.
The ad rates would be high. It's kind of like golf tournaments. Not many viewers, but the ads are premium spots.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we're joined by Corey Adams from Robert Half right after this.
Market insight, retirement strategies, real talk about Wall Street and economic trends. All live every day on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/The Financial Exchange Show. This is The Financial Exchange.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A single nursing home stay could cost you more than $14,000 a month. That's why so many families believe they'll have to spend almost everything before a loved one can qualify for Medicaid. But that isn't always the case. Cushing & Dolan has created a new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. In it, you'll learn how Medicaid eligibility works, get information about last-minute planning options that may still be available, the mistakes that could cost your family, and why acting quickly could give you more options. Don't assume you have to lose everything to pay for long-term care. Get your free copy of our new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative James McGovern are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Remember, you can watch the show live every day on our YouTube page. We've got market updates and breaking business news all morning long, plus a full archive of all our show's content. It's all there with the click of a button at youtube.com/The Financial Exchange Show.
Corey Adams from hiring agency and management consultant Robert Half joins us now, right ahead of tomorrow's jobs report. Corey, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me as always.
You know, one of the trends we've been following has been the pace of hiring this year picking up, especially compared to last year, when the more we look at the data, the more it seems there was some real hesitance around the new tariffs and what it might mean for businesses. But we have seen an uptick so far in 2026 in the pace of hiring, and your recent survey seems to indicate that we could see another uptick from here. What did you find in the survey of employers?
Yeah, it does. So I'll give you 4 kind of data sets here that we can talk about. So 66% of employers actually plan to increase permanent hiring in the second half of 2026. And it's important to note that that is up from 60% in the first half of this year. 56% plan to increase contract hiring to access specialized skills and keep key initiatives moving forward. 48% of employers report canceling projects altogether because they couldn't find workers with the necessary skills. And then 63% say that talent shortages have led to significant project delays. The one thing I will just call out, Mike, for your reference is when we share these numbers, oftentimes, this is a national look. And so these are from hiring managers across the domestic U.S. here. What I'll tell you is we look locally here for a minute and pull it back. Boston is pretty much in line with most of what we see nationally. And so what we experience here locally is what is in line with what's happening across the rest of the country.
So I think obviously when we talk about the labor market, the going conversation right now is what's AI going to do to it? Am I still going to be able to find work in my industry? When you take a look at hiring plans by the industries, where are you seeing companies with the biggest improvements or the biggest hiring plans out there?
So let's just kind of start with the big 3, and I'll get pretty granular here. So the big 3 where we're seeing the greatest demand, and it's probably not a lot of surprise, but it's technology, it's healthcare, and it's finance and accounting, as all 3 of these buckets are reporting the strongest hiring plans for the rest of of the year. These sectors continue to face high demand for specialized skill and expertise, but we're also seeing many employers are hiring right now to support digital transformation, operational efficiency, as well as regulatory requirements. But if we want to get real detailed, finance and accounting, the greatest demand falls within audit and financial controls. We see it within the entire billing process as well as payroll management. When we look at technology, no surprise, the leading in-demand area is AI adoption, and then you have enterprise software applications and machine learning. And then if we just want to touch on healthcare, and again, this is going to be non-clinical, but you see patient access, record management, as well as scheduling. And then within legal, AI literacy, compliance, e-discovery, and litigation. And then just to kind of bring it home for you, human resources, you see a great demand in benefits administration, employee onboarding, anything within Workday, and then anything within recruitment, which sort of ties into the demand that we're seeing in the marketplace and expectation for hiring happening over the next 5 months.
So what I'm hearing from you seems to be a skill set mismatch, right? Employers are looking for employees and actively canceling, projects that they want to roll out because they can't find the right ones. But when I look at the data in the aggregate, there are plenty of people not working right now. It's not a high unemployment rate environment by any stretch of the imagination, but compared to just a few years ago when labor was in an extremely short supply, we seem much more balanced in the aggregate. And yet your survey seems to find that employers are having a very difficult time finding the right people.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the labor market for a second, right? And this will sort of paint the picture. And I think we did this, the last time we talked, but the labor market indicators are pointing to a continued demand for talent, right? I think you sort of said this, but unemployment rates remain really low for most professional occupations. We know that the job openings are still above historic norms, and we know that the hiring rate has been sitting at 3.3%. And so as hiring activity continues to increase, and it has, employers are basically focusing on filling specialized roles in business critical positions that support growth, productivity, but they also contribute to future hiring increases and being competitive, because that's really important. So, they're being thoughtful in their approach. And in essence, the whole sort of motivation and why companies are moving forward with things that were previously delayed has just sort of been shifted. And so if you sort of look at all this, some of the data, some of the trends, you can sort of point to the fact that this is continuing to signal that there's some gradual improvement in the market. But then the other side of this, just to talk about, and you didn't sort of say this, but you alluded to this, but let's call it what it is. We're also still hearing occasionally about these layoffs that happen. And so, listen, at the end of the day, layoffs are certainly still a part of the economy in this moment. And understandably, they're significant for individuals as well as the communities that are affected. But like, layoffs are not the only story that we're seeing in the labor market. Many organizations are continuing to recruit for these critical roles that I just alluded to. And they're doing so despite the fact that workforce reductions may be occurring elsewhere. So we're just seeing, to sort of actually answer your question now, Mike, we're just seeing a little bit more of a nuanced environment where workforce reductions in some areas are actually coexisting with active hiring in others. So we just got to remember that layoffs and talent shortages can actually exist at the same time, because not all skills and or industries are actually interchangeable.
So, Corey, one thing I can almost guarantee is that at the conclusion of this interview, we'll have a text or an email into the show telling me about, this individual who's been searching for a job for 6 months, or this one's kid who graduated with a really specialized degree and still can't find a job. So for the listeners out there that are seeking right now, what are the employers looking for, and how can employees looking for work better stand out? And I'm sorry, I asked you this question. I only have like a minute for your answer.
I'll be quick. Tell those individuals to feel free to contact me, but I'll be as concise as possible. You want to be clear about your impact. You want to be clear about what you've accomplished, and you want to be clear about the business results that you yourself have delivered. Use AI as a tool, not as a shortcut, and tailor your resume and outreach so that it feels specific and authentic right now, because we're living in this world of AI resumes, and clients are having a really hard time distinguishing between who's a valid candidate and who's not, and who's capable of doing a job. So be specific, be authentic, but also make sure you're showcasing both your technical and soft skills, because employers want people who can do the job, but they also want people who can collaborate and communicate effectively.
Corey Adams from Robert Half joining us today to talk about their latest survey on the state of the labor market, hiring, and just where which employers are looking for specialized employees. Corey, thanks so much for joining us. As always, appreciate it. Really insightful, and we'll talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Take care.
As a reminder, we will be getting a labor market report tomorrow. The monthly jobs report comes out at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Expectations right now are for, according to MarketWatch, 83,000 jobs to be created. That's after last month's 57,000, and the unemployment rate to stay steady at 4.2%. We will get that full report and be breaking it down live on the show tomorrow at 10 when we kick off, but the report itself out tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange. When we return, full market update is next with Wall Street Watch. Stay tuned.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The biggest retirement decision you make may have nothing to do with your investments. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You've worked hard preparing your finances for retirement, so take the time to think about whether your home will still fit the life you want to live. The house that's perfect today could become more work than it's worth a few years from now. Stairs, maintenance, a big yard, or even being too far from the people and places that matter. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, walks through the different stages of retirement, the housing options available, and the questions you should be asking now before a decision becomes urgent. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. One day, you're living in your own home. The next, you can't return home after rehab. Now, you're faced with a nursing home bill of more than $14,000 a month and wondering how you're going to pay for it. These situations can occur without warning, but Cushing & Dolan can help. Before you make any major decisions, get the facts. Cushing & Dolan's new guide, Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility, explains common misconceptions about Medicaid, what assets may or may not be at risk, and why the first answer you receive isn't always your only option. Call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free copy of Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive. Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. Every walker who joins HeartWalk means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We have a guide available this month titled Navigating Retirement Housing Choices. Mike, when we look at the considerations for people in their housing and retirement, one that comes up are these continuing care retirement communities, CCRCs, or age-in-place communities as they're known. How does someone make a decision about looking at one of those?
Well, I think the first, obviously you have to sort out your priorities, but the first thing is to think long-term about this. And what people sometimes overlook with these places is that term continuing care means that they adapt to your needs over time, but they do not just allow anyone in. In a lot of cases, they will have cognitive and physical tests that you need to pass in order to be accepted into these communities that then will provide all sorts of care later in life. And so I think early on is always better if you're considering that sort of thing.
The financial aspect of these also has a number of considerations as well in terms of what's actually affordable given your particular budget and liquidity.
Do I need a buy-in? Am I going to rent a place? What are my options for later in life? And then all sorts of tax considerations. Hey, I really want an income tax-free state. Well, is that worth it if I'm going to be paying more in property taxes given the composition of my assets and income? All of these really important considerations.
The guide this month is titled Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, and you've got a couple different ways to request it. First, you can call 800-393-4001. The second choice, you can go to armstrongadvisory.com and request it there. Again, that website is armstrongadvisory.com, or you can get it by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are mixed and heading in the wrong direction right now. Dow Jones is off 0.6%. The S&P 500 is down 12 points or 0.16%. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, is positive 0.05%. Oil is up $1.93 or 2.5%. Brent crude is up $2.34 or 2.95%. Gold right now is up $7.40 or 0.17%. Silver, on the other hand, is down 1.16%. Peloton shares sank nearly 12% after its fourth quarter results. Its earnings of 13 cents per share was in line with estimates, while its revenue topped expectations. Peloton also reported its active paying subscribers fell 8.8% year over year. The Food and Drug Administration approved Moderna's mRNA flu vaccine, Mfluziva, for adults 50 or older. Despite the news, shares are down 2%. SanDisk slid 3% as revenue guidance appeared to disappoint traders. SanDisk said its first quarter revenue in a range of $10.3 billion to $10.8 billion, while the consensus sought $10.47 billion. Fourth quarter results beat expectations on the top and bottom lines. DoorDash added 1% after its quarterly revenue of $4.45 billion beat the consensus of $4.34 billion. Its earnings of 46 cents a share came in line with expectations. And finally, Zillow slid more than 12.5% after it expanded Chief Financial Officer Jeremy Hoffman's role, giving him the additional title of Chief Operating Officer. The company also reported a solid quarter after the bell with adjusted earnings per share of 52 cents, topping estimates of 45 cents, and $772 million in revenue, beating estimates of $758 million. A day earlier, the company announced it would let go of about 500 employees. I am Ben Kitchen, and that was Wall Street Watch.
Chuck, 2 weeks from today, we have a live seminar from the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group that I want to tell everybody about. It's Thursday, August 20th in Framingham after work, 5 p.m. kickoff here. And you may have heard me talk about previous ones that we've done here in Braintree as well as up in Woburn. This one's out in Framingham. And if you missed the other two, it's your perfect opportunity to attend a talk.
Or if you didn't want to drive to either of those and this is closer to you.
True, that would also work. Maybe you are not north or south of Boston and instead are west of Boston and would like to attend this one. It's a conversation on the two most commonly asked questions we get from retirees. How's Social Security work? How's Medicare work? And how specifically are the two programs going to work for me? We'll be tackling the ins and outs of these two different programs, how they're going to interact with your other income that you might have in retirement. Maybe you are on state-provided health insurance. Maybe you'll be getting a pension from work. Maybe you are divorced and have questions about how that's going to affect your Social Security. All of these we tackle at these. And we've had some really good questions from the crowd, the last two, that, again, this is not us talking to you for an hour and a half. This is the opportunity to bring your actual questions to us about how the program is going to work for you and specifically how it's going to contribute to your retirement. You have to register ahead of time. Space is limited. The next event is on Thursday, August 20th in Framingham at the big Castle Hotel there, the Renaissance Framingham, right off the highway. Easy to get to, easy to find. Go to armstrongadvisory.com/events to reserve your spot. You can book for you and as well as your guests. Again, armstrongadvisory.com/events, Thursday, August 20th at 5 p.m. or call us at 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
He's back, Mike.
Yeah, it only took a week.
He's back. Leopold Aschenbrenner, the manager of the situational awareness hedge fund that blew up last week, has made a new $400 million investment in what, you might ask? The answer is...
some private company.
We don't know. It's a private... excuse me. It's a privately held company. And it gets at what I do think is a great lesson that he learned from this, albeit the wrong one, which is you can't get margin called on a private asset.
True.
Because you
can't borrow against it.
You can't use margin on a private asset. So look,
it's actually a lesson that financial salespeople across the board have been using for a long time. Hey, look at how privately held investments reduce your volatility. Well, yeah, only because they don't get marked to the market every day. That doesn't mean that they don't have price volatility underlying them. It's like saying, I love investing in real estate because of the lack of volatility. Well, that's because you don't try and sell it every 6 hours.
Yes. I have mixed thoughts on this. On one hand, good on you for getting back on the horse. On the other, maybe you should take a minute to think about what you did and figure out how to not end up back in the same spot.
Nope.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens from here. Again, managing private assets, the good news, as you mentioned, you typically can't blow up as often because of how they're marked. The bad news is that when private assets do blow up, you have no recourse because they're privately held. There is no Citadel to come take them off your hands then. You have to go and just find a buyer for whatever you might be able to get for them and hope that it works.
Citadel might come and buy it, but it's a lot more difficult to figure out what they're going to pay for it.
Yes. So we'll see. Again, I don't know if this is good, bad, or ugly. Aschenbrenner reportedly is a very, very good picker of stocks, but just got burnt by too much leverage. So if he's really that good at picking companies, maybe this is great. Or maybe he's just shell-shocked and making bad decisions now. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We're going to have to report on this guy for years now, aren't we?
Everything he does, it's going to be the next Michael Burry.
Just an
and he's only
unproven Michael Burry.
Mike, he's only 25, so he's going to outlive both of us.
Yeah, in all likelihood.
He looks like he's 12, so he's definitely going to outlive both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I was 25, I looked 45.
Clearly much healthier than either of the two of us.
Well, speak for yourself.
Okay, clearly much healthier than I am, or was at 25.
Yes, I would say he has a much better head of hair than I've ever had, even at 15. So, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, this is going to be... Well, again, there is nothing funnier than a hedge fund called situational awareness blowing up when the stock market's down by less than 3%. So, I do applaud the comedy. I don't look forward to covering it for the next 15 years.
Sure. I want to cover this piece on LSU athletics that Ben was able to pop in here. So LSU had meetings the last couple days with donors trying to figure out what their athletic program is going to look like going forward for revenue generation, because starting now, like, schools can start to directly share sports-related revenue with their athletes. It's not just NIL deals. Major D1 college programs are able to share up to around $21 million in sports-related revenues with their athletes. And so the question is, like, how are we going to do this? There's a lot of private equity firms kind of circling, saying, oh, like, we'll give you cash now in exchange for, future, rights money and things like that. And LSU basically saying, look, like, we don't want to go that route. But the lead is kind of buried in here, in that LSU, I'll quote here from this piece, LSU's taken on more than $180 million in spending commitments in the past years because of 2 coaching changes. LSU football fired Brian Kelly with $54 million remaining on his contract in late October, and basketball coach Matt McMahon when the university still owed him $8 million. They then hired Lane Kiffin as Kelly's replacement, luring him with a 7-year contract worth $91 million, and followed that up by hiring basketball coach Will Wade, who was already, by the way, Will Wade, if you're not familiar with him, either of you know his story?
Nope.
Okay, so Will Wade already was the LSU basketball coach from 2017 to 2022. He was fired because of a whole bunch of NCAA investigations into improper benefits and recruiting violations.
Well, the good news is pretty much all that stuff is legal now.
Sort of, yes. Yeah. Hey, if you can't beat them, change the rules, I guess is the rule at this point. So
don't have to worry about that anymore. Check.
A few things.
Not taking into account ethics.
A few things. Number one, I have absolutely no problem with Lane Kiffin making like $14 million a year as the LSU football coach. People will be like, well, LSU's a public institution. Like, what about the budget? I refer people back to Jim Calhoun, the former coach of the UConn men's basketball team for about 20 years. Someone once asked him, Jim, do you feel, bad about taking like your salary given how high it is? And he pointed out, he goes, go look at the school budget. UConn basketball contributes millions of dollars each year on a net basis to the school, which actually makes it cheaper for everyone else to go. So no, I don't feel bad about my salary. I'm sure that when you look at LSU's books, LSU football is a huge net contributor to LSU's budget. It probably isn't great that they do have that, all those hits for the coaches they fired. When you're paying 2 coaches, maybe it doesn't make sense budget-wise. And that could be the problem, is just bad hiring that you've gone through. But there's no inherent problem there. The problem that you have with college athletics, though, is that for every LSU football that makes a bunch of money for the institution, you have, and I say this as like a proud soccer player, you have an LSU soccer which does not make money for the institution and probably loses it because of its travel schedule. You have an LSU, and again, I don't know if they actually have these sports, but you have LSU fencing and gymnastics and water polo and all these non-revenue sports where, have you looked at the SEC map lately, Michael, of like all the schools that are in the SEC?
Yeah, it's like east, west, north, south.
It still is mostly southern, but it's like
all the directions.
The ACC is the worst. The ACC literally now has like both coasts covered. It's the Atlantic Pacific Coast Conference,
Perfect.
Not the Atlantic Coast Conference. But here's the deal: if you're Texas, as an example, and you've got to schlep your fencing team over to freaking Gainesville, Florida, to battle the Gainesville Gators, fencing team. It's costing you tens of thousands of dollars to do that. You're taking your fencers away from classes. And by the way...
That's right, the ticket sales alone on fencing.
By the way, those kids aren't going pro in fencing because I don't know if there is a pro fencing league.
It's Olympics.
I think it actually would be I kind of wonder why fencing hasn't caught on more as a professional sport.
Have you watched it?
What do you mean?
I think it's just the lamest.
Why is it lame? It's people trying to stab each other with swords.
Yeah, but the way that they, I'm looking for something.
You want them to actually be beheaded.
So I'm looking for, the fencing in like a Bond movie or.
No, you want like jousting.
What's the one with the twins at camp? Little girls, Lindsay Lohan.
Parent Trap?
Yeah. That's the fencing I'm looking for.
Yeah, I don't think that's really what it is, Michael.
Yeah, I know. That's why I don't like it.
But I don't know, like, it's people swinging swords around. Like, how can you not find a way to market that?
Yeah.
According to the Knight Newhouse School, Syracuse, LSU is one of the 13 college sports programs that it's valued over $1 billion.
Right, so I don't have problems with, like, and I'm sure that 90% of that is here's my guess on the breakdown. 85% of that is LSU football. 10% in some way, shape, or form is LSU men's and women's basketball. And the remainder is probably between LSU baseball and gymnastics. Well, everything else loses money.
That's what I was going to say, is that football probably makes up like more than 100% because of so many programs losing so much money. It's like how Apple makes up 150%
of smartphone revenue, profits. Yeah, it's probably fair. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we've got Stack Roulette next.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. A single nursing home stay could cost you more than $14,000 a month. That's why so many families believe they'll have to spend almost everything before a loved one can qualify for Medicaid. But that isn't always the case. Cushing & Dolan has created a new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility. In it, you'll learn how Medicaid eligibility works, get information about last-minute planning options that may still be available, the mistakes that could cost your family, and why acting quickly could give you more options. Don't assume you have to lose everything to pay for long-term care. Get your free copy of our new guide called Last Minute Medicaid Eligibility right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Retirement isn't just one stage of life. It changes over time, and your home should change with it. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. You may have heard of the go-go years when you're traveling and enjoying the freedom you've worked so hard to earn. Then come the slow-go years when convenience starts to matter more, and eventually the no-go years when safety and support take center stage. Our new guide, Navigating Retirement Housing Choices, shows you how different housing options can fit each stage of retirement. From staying in your home to downsizing, to exploring elder life communities, you'll learn what questions to ask before you're forced to make a decision. Get your free copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined. For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Stephen Lynch are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Stay informed and prepared for market changes and breaking business news. The Financial Exchange is live every day on YouTube. Tune in, subscribe, and keep up to date on all of our show's content on a daily basis. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Register today and join more than 800 runners who have already registered for this year's DAV 5K on Saturday, November 7th at Fort Independence on Castle Island. Registrations are on a record pace, so if you want to participate, head to dav5k.boston and sign up today, or please consider making a donation. Your gifts help provide vital services like free transportation to medical appointments and safe housing for single veterans and their families. Donate today at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Mike, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette?
I have what is the single weirdest Wall Street Journal piece that I think I've ever seen published. It's a lifestyle essay from a PG Sittenfeld. And PG Sittenfeld is described in the piece as a writer and public speaker who lives in Cincinnati with his wife and 3 sons, which is a bit like calling Tom Hanks, a father and enthusiastic vintage typewriter collector, which happens to be true, but is not what he's famous for. PG Sittenfeld is famous for being the youngest Democrat ever elected to the Cincinnati House, and then convicted in 2022 on federal charges of bribery and attempted extortion in connection with an undercover investigation by the FBI.
Oh.
His whole essay is about phone addiction and how he didn't really realize how addicted to his phone he was until he went to prison for said convictions on bribery and attempted extortion while he was a sitting public official. He was eventually granted a pardon by President Trump, actually. But again, I'm just so confused by the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal who says, yeah, you know what? Let's have a convicted felon. Granted, he was granted a pardon by the president, so whatever you want to make of that. But let's have a convicted felon who is charged with, again, convicted on federal charges of bribery and attempted extortion. I'd like to hear his story about his experience with cell phones in prison.
Does he make any good points?
No. I guess if you're looking for an inside scoop on the underground economy of prisons, then you can do so through this piece, but you'll be more entertained by watching The Wire or, some other
so you're saying
piece.
It's not really relatable to the average person.
Not relatable, and why are you giving a voice to a convicted person who, misused the public's trust? Come on, Wall Street Journal.
Well, that seems to happen a lot with Cincinnati Democrats. Remember Jerry Springer?
Yeah.
You raised some valid points, Ben.
Come on, guys. What are we doing here? There's nobody else that can talk to you about phone addiction? I'm done. I'm just done. That was the weirdest piece I've ever read in my life.
It's kind of like, how going to prison taught me about overeating. I just don't know that there's meat on that bone, pun intended. Let's take a quick break for the rest of the day, and we'll come up with a list of people better to talk to about phone addiction for tomorrow.